Hey everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Unfiltered podcast. Today I'm joined by Thomas Reinhard, who's one of the founders of Cascadia Pizza. Thomas, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this. Probably going to be hungry by the time we're done with it as well. But you guys are a brand that is relatively new to the franchise inventory. Franchise is the consulting network that I'm a part of, and one that's a bit unique for us. We don't work with a ton of food businesses or food franchises, but I was actually excited, when I first started learning more about your brand, because you guys have some really unique kind of characteristics to the business model. Seems like a great product as well. So excited to have you on to share more about Cascadia Pizza with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be in the franchise inventory, and looking forward to working with all the franchise consultants.
Yeah, man. Awesome. So just start us off. Give us kind of the quick 30,000 foot view. What is Cascadia Pizza?
Yeah, so Cascadia Pizza, we're based in the Pacific Northwest outside of the Seattle area. We currently have stores in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And we are a wood fired, Neapolitan inspired pizza that is the franchise opportunity is both a brick and mortar and a mobile concept. We actually got started as a mobile food truck trailer back 10 years ago. My business partner, Christian, got started part time, just really catering people's weddings and other special events. And then eventually had saved up enough money through the business to buy a bigger trailer where he could do full public events. And that's where my partner Cal and I got involved. I had grown up with Christian's wife, and so I went to their wedding, had the pizza for the first time. He catered his own wedding. I still don't know how he did it, but and so I had the pizza for the first time and went, wow, I've never had a product like this. Of course, I grew up like all of us on the kind of the chain pizzerias, your classic, Domino's, whatever. And this is something so different from that. And so I looked around the room at the reception. It was a big wedding, and everyone else was having the same reaction to the product that I had. And so I thought, Christian's got something here. I'm really interested in this. And so I went home, called up my college buddy Cal, who was also really entrepreneurial. And I said, this is something interesting we need to take a look at. And so we sent Christian a message while he was on his honeymoon and said, hey, I want to hear more about what you're doing. And he had the vision for the first brick and mortar store that we opened in Enumclaw, Washington, a small farm town, about 12,000 people. So we really got our start with food trucking, moved into the brick and mortar. And so really the opportunity is a threefold opportunity. You've got your brick and mortars, you've got, and on the mobile side, you've got public paid events as well as prepaid catering. And so those three really revenue streams really drive the business.
Yeah, that's a big part of what I like about it. Compared to most traditional food franchises, you've got these kind of different models, and we'll get more into it. But it sounds like, again, compared to most food franchises, or really even most brick and mortar franchises, kind of a quicker way to launch the business and start generating some revenue, while you're getting the brick and mortar site actually ready to go. But before we dive into that, so what were you doing when you first started, wanting to get involved with Cascadia or learn more about it? What had you done prior to that?
Yeah, so I actually was in law school at the time.
Okay.
I was going into my third year of law school, not super happy in law school, enjoyed the information I was getting, but didn't really see that lifestyle being the lifestyle I really wanted to pursue. And so I had grown up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents were entrepreneurs, my grandfather as well. So I always knew that was the kind of the lifestyle I was going after. And so and same with Cal as well. Cal we had gone to undergrad together in Southern California, Pepperdine University. He was really entrepreneurial. He had a Bitcoin startup. So I'd always kind of known him to be entrepreneurial as well. So, really the three of us, me, Cal, and Christian, really grew up in this business in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
I still graduated law school, passed the bar exam, did all that good stuff, practiced law for a little bit while we were getting going. So really most of my professional experience as a full-fledged adult really has been at Cascadia.
Very cool. Well, I didn't know you were an attorney, so I'll make sure not to breach any FTC guidelines or anything while we're going through this today. I was going to lead off with make $1 million in your first year owning this awesome pizza franchise, but we'll leave that part out. But no, that's cool, and it's got to be fun. Three three buddies, working together in the business and building something. I imagine that part of it's been, pretty rewarding and a lot of fun. So when you guys decided to partner up and, build this into something bigger, was franchising on your radar at that point, or is that something that came a little bit later?
Well, okay, we all watched The Founder together pretty early on, right? And so that
Yeah,
that sparked that a little bit. But
sure.
initially, no, we weren't really excited on the franchise path. Franchising as a franchisor, it can be a little daunting to really figure out how to set things up and how to, really start as a franchisor. So we thought, no, I think we can do this all on our own, where our goal was to open 100 corporate stores and really go out and do it that way. But what we quickly learned was that the most effective restaurant operators in particular, and I think this really is for most franchise brands, really you can have between like 2 and 10 units and still be effective without having to introduce that layer of middle management.
Right.
And so for us, we are a very community oriented brand. So we didn't want to lose that personal touch with our customer base and our employee base as well. And so we thought, gosh, if we can introduce other people to this business opportunity and really help them be in business for themselves, but not by themselves, and really keep that local community oriented feel that our brand just thrives on, that really would be the best path for us. And so, yeah, it really, like I said, it wasn't on our radar until a few years ago. Actually, a friend of ours approached us to ask if he could franchise the Cascadia brand. He was a Jersey Mike's franchisee, and so he had 3 really successful units. He had moved his family out to Idaho from Western Washington, so he was kind of tired of the commute back and forth. Still running his profitable Jersey Mike's. He said, "Gosh, we really need good pizza out where I moved to. Can I franchise from you?" And so that's really what launched it for us. Of course, it's a long process to get going, but so he's our first franchisee, really successful with 2 brick-and-mortar units and 2.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think that's always a good sign when when a company starts franchising because people are requesting it versus they want to franchise their business and then they franchise it and then they've got to go out and find that first franchisee. Obviously, it can work both ways, but that's always a good indicator, to me, that you had people asking for it before you were even had even made the decision that franchising was the route that you wanted to go. And him already being a Jersey Mike's franchisee, Jersey Mike's pretty established brand, pretty sophisticated brand at this point. So I imagine that's been helpful, having an experienced franchisee as your first franchisee, as you guys are kind of, learning and figuring it out. We'll get right back to the episode in just a minute, but if you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode. So where are you guys at now in terms of total number of locations? Because I know you guys own and operate some locations kind of corporately. Do you have more franchisees than the guy in Idaho at this point?
Yeah, we have one other additional franchisee, and then we also have one sold but not open, who's actually been an employee of ours for a number of years. So
that's cool.
super excited about that. He's a young kid going out. He's started with us as a sophomore in high school, has been able to save enough money in that time in the last, I think, 4.5 years, maybe 5 now, to be able to go out and open his own franchise location. So super excited.
Awesome. Yeah, I love stories like that, man. That's so cool. And then you guys have partnered with Franchise Fastlane.
Yep.
Which, for an early stage brand like this is something that, as a consultant, I like to see because, naturally a lot of people are going to look at, an emerging brand and they're just going to see risk all over it, compared to a franchise that's more established, with more of a track record. And there's a lot of benefits to getting in early with a franchise. I mean, prime territory available, like, any nationally really recognized brand, whether it's in food or some other sector, it's so difficult to find good territory still available. It's like once it's a household name, it's almost too late.
Yeah.
in most cases, unless you're in a more, kind of rural market off the beaten path a little bit. So that can be a big advantage, along with other advantages of getting in early, but it is more difficult. So, for me, it's more difficult to get comfortable with the risk, I guess. So there's more unknowns. So for me, it's always good to see, an emerging brand partnering with an organization like Franchise Fastlane, where at this point they've helped, I don't even know how many
Right.
emerging brands, grow into large national footprint brands, but do it in a way that, they're understanding what to expect. Every time you bring on a new wave of franchisees, you've got to really tune in your support internally, and you've got to really be kind of thinking ahead, as the franchisor, to make sure you're in a position to support the growth. And that's where a good group like Franchise Fastlane can really help.
Yeah, Fastlane has just been incredible to work with, been great mentors, and obviously salespeople who have really helped guide us along the way so far. And we have some other franchise consultants who we work with. So we're really primed and ready for the growth that's about to come. We've got a great deep bench of support in our corporate office who's just really ready, willing, and able to help anyone who joins the system.
Yeah, that's good. It's so important. I mean, for you guys, I mean, as a young franchisor, I've seen a lot of brands never really get much momentum because the first, 5, 6, 7 franchisees that they bring in are just not really the right fit. And so I think that's another area that someone like Franchise Fastlane can really help, is, make sure that you guys are awarding franchises to the right type of people, because not everyone's going to be the right fit to be an early adopter franchisee. So, if you can really get that piece right, and, get more franchisees like your friend in Idaho, that's a successful operator, that's where this thing can really get some momentum.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we're looking for all kinds of folks out there who are entrepreneurial, really looking to be involved in their local communities wherever they're going to open their territories. We've got, yeah, like to your point, we've got a lot of available territory, of course, and really we think this brand can be successful in just about any market. I mean, our North Idaho franchisee, for example, he's in the Coeur d'Alene area. He's got 2 stores, one in Coeur d'Alene proper, which is sort of a resort town, and then one in a small town called Rathdrum that is about 12,000 people.
Wow.
And he's just killing it in both those locations, but particularly in Rathdrum, the small town. So
Huh.
that's what we're really excited about. We've got stores that are in more suburban, small town, 25, 30,000 people. Our first corporate store that we opened is in a farming town of about 12,000 as well. And then we've got a successful store in Bellevue, Washington, which is the second biggest city in Washington state. And then a franchise unit in Salem, Oregon, that's about 175,000 people. So the brand really has a lot of versatility in terms of territory. We really see this as being able to bring great high quality pizza to the masses. I mean, typically wood fired pizza, you're seeing it in a more fine dining setting, a more
Mhm.
sit down restaurant, not as much in the QSR space.
Yeah.
And a lot of QSR brands in particular are, for whatever reason, kind of scared to touch these smaller towns. And so, you end up with kind of just your average basic national food brands that everybody knows, like drive-throughs, basically,
Yeah.
but you don't really get the high quality product that we're able to deliver because most people just kind of say, the demographics are too small or whatever it might be. But for us, that's our bread and butter. That's where we really see a lot of opportunity. If we can be first or best into the market, and typically it's both, we know that we'll thrive.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Why it would do well in some of these smaller towns. And to your point, I mean, not even food. There's not many franchises I know that would look at a town of 12,000 and say
Yeah.
it's a viable, market for them. So, but it does make sense. You probably don't have as much competition, especially when it comes to like the higher end wood fired pizza. And
Yeah.
pizza is one of these things. It's not like you know, a couple times a year or once a month type of
Exactly.
thing for most people. Like, hell, man, we've got 3 kids. We're eating pizza at least once a week, probably twice a week. I don't know how I feel about admitting that to everyone, but at least twice a week, we're probably grabbing pizza. And we've actually got a kind of reminds me of you guys, a local food truck that does wood-fired pizza. It is literally some of the best pizza I've ever had. It's probably not as good as yours, but I haven't had a chance to try yours yet, but it's fantastic. And they actually, so they went a little bit of a different route than you guys. They got a second truck and they put like a big barnuminium type thing up and turned it into like a tap house and
Oh,
a beer
sweet.
garden type thing. And then so they just always have one of their trucks parked out behind that. And I mean, you go there, especially like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that place is packed out. And, they are just constantly serving up these pizzas. And then they have their other truck, going around. And this is in, Hampstead, North Carolina, a little bit north of Wilmington, not a huge population, especially outside of Wilmington. And they're absolutely crushing it. So that makes sense. But then I can see why, it would still do well in your, major to mid-size markets as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. No, well, absolutely. And I mean, it kind of reminds me what we're doing of what Starbucks coined many years ago in terms of affordable luxury, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
really converting people from your typical drip coffee to, more elevated like latte or whatever they're selling now. And that's really what we're trying to do is everybody eats pizza. There's not a single demographic out there that doesn't. And that's why we're so successful in the catering space, especially with weddings and special events, because you
Mm-hmm.
know that no matter what, if you have pizza there, every single person is going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
Uh,
but you don't want to have like Domino's catering your
well,
wedding, right? You don't want to like drop a
exactly.
bunch. So yeah, you want it to be
Exactly.
elegant, higher end, but yeah, pizza's a safe bet. No one's going to be upset about that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Interesting. So, um, are you guys looking for franchisees primarily that already have some level of food experience, or what are
No,
your thoughts on
no.
that?
I mean, obviously that's great, but no. I mean, pizza is wood fired pizza. It's a little bit more of a skill to gain, but
Hmm.
it's not impossible for just the average everyday person that doesn't have food experience. You're not doing anything that's super complicated. You're not. How do I say this? I mean, you don't need to be a big culinarian to really operate a pizzeria. At the end of the day, pizza is still a very simple food.
Yeah.
Making the dough there's a science to it, but once you just follow the standard recipe, it's really not complicated. Same with stretching, topping, cooking the pizza. I mean, that's really about it. So we've got it's a 4-week training program in total, but 2 weeks in person where we teach you how to make pizza, and we've done that with a few franchisees now, and they've been able to go out, replicate and duplicate the system, and train their people, no problem. We'll also offer on-site support prior to grand opening to make sure
Okay.
that all of your initial staff is getting trained exactly to the corporate standards as well. And so but no, I mean, if someone doesn't have food experience, I don't think that they should shy away from it. If they're people that are excited about community, want to do something different, get out of the corporate rat race, but still need a system to follow. They don't want to go and reinvent the wheel. So
Yeah.
we're just looking for people who are hungry and motivated. No pun intended on the hungry, but it's like, I think that this really is an opportunity for just about anybody who is looking to make a change.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Well, and a lot of the big food brands out there, really want people, franchisees that already have food ownership experience. But to me, it makes sense why this would be different and not, necessarily require someone that's owned some sort of a food service business in the past. And like I know you only have a handful of franchisees at this point, but like what is kind of in your mind the ideal role for the franchise owner, right? Because this is something I spend a lot of time on with the
Yeah.
people that I work with, right? Because you need to really, before you decide to invest in a franchise, you need to really understand how you, the owner, should be spending the majority of your time. And so in your business, is that working on the truck, once you have your brick and mortar, is that in the location? You've talked a few times already about community involvement. I imagine that's, a great use of time for the franchise owner. But, once they've been open for, 6 months or so, kind of have their feet underneath them, like how should the owner be spending most of their time?
Yeah, I think to your point, there are some people who are going to want to be owner operators and are going to want to be in there, right? And I think that's one bucket of people, and that's great. I think the other bucket of people are folks who really need to dedicate maybe about 20 hours a week to just high level 30,000 foot operations, making sure like the schedule is out the way that they want it, and managed well for labor costs based on volume, making sure that the ordering has been done by the manager the right way that they want it, and then just general employee and then community involvement and marketing. So much of what we do is really marketing based and just getting the product into people's hands, whether that's and again, it ties into the food truck component. So like this weekend in one of our markets, our corporate markets, it's the town Maple Valley Days for the next 3 days. And so our food truck is at that event for all 3 days. We're selling pizza, so we're making money at it. At the same time, we're meeting the customer base right where they're at.
Yeah.
And even though we've been in that market for 4 years, I know there's still people that have not come by and had our pizza at the brick and mortar, but they're going to have the pizza at that event. And then it's going to drive them back to the brick and mortar at some point. And so, for the average operator, after they're up and going, they're really just out in their community, just really being an advocate for the brand. And so it's really so much. And that's where we really need people. This is the hospitality industry. We need people who are hospitable. And so, if you're not a people person, this probably isn't the right opportunity. But if you enjoy talking to people, and not in a like weird way or whatever, but just out and about, and hey, I'm the owner of Cascadia, and just comes up in conversation, that really is what the average franchise owner is doing. That's really driving a lot of traffic back to their brick and mortar and driving profitability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially with the food truck, there's so many networking opportunities, I would imagine. You talk about catering weddings, right? Go meet with every single wedding planner in the area, right? Let them try the pizza for free. Make sure you're at the top of their, freaking list of, vendors to recommend to the couples that they're planning weddings for. Yeah, there's so many angles that if the owner is willing to get out there in the community and meet people and just help to spread the awareness, you keep that food truck busy all the time, and then that's just funneling more and more people into the brick and mortar. So talk to me a little bit about the what does the launch look like, right? So is a franchisee able to launch with the food truck
Yeah.
Prior to actually having their brick and mortar open?
Yeah, totally. So we can get a brand new trailer manufactured and shipped out to you in about 12 weeks with our manufacturing partner in Portland, Oregon. So that's great. So from the time you sign the franchise agreement, you can get going probably about 12 weeks later. Because in the background, we're working on your training, make sure that that food truck's getting permitted with your health department and all that. And we, of course, hold your hand through that whole process and make it really simple. And so, yeah, you can immediately start searching for your brick and mortar territory. And then once your food truck is going, then you can go out and start booking events and testing markets where you're looking at potential brick and mortar opportunities. So that's another cool aspect of the mobile component, is it's really a risk mitigator in a lot of ways in addition to marketing, because you can go on LoopNet or work with your local broker, whatever, and say, okay, here's 3 different brick and mortar sites that I'm targeting, and go food truck around in those areas, in the neighborhoods, or across the street, or however you can make it work, and try it out for a little while. And man, if you're getting a lot of great success, and you're selling a lot of pizza, getting a lot of good feedback from those customers there, that's probably a good indicator that brick and mortar is going to thrive there.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you might think this is a great location for a brick and mortar. All the demographics look right on paper, and you go and you food truck there 4 or 5 times, and you're like selling $100 each time. That's not the right spot for you. And we've tested and tried that on our end. I mean, we literally, our Maple Valley location, a corporate location, was built because of food trucking during COVID in neighborhoods. And on the converse of that is there was what we thought was a great location, that home run right in a great neighborhood area, standalone building. We went and food truck there, like, I'm going to say 10, 15 times, and it was a dud every single time. We're like, well,
really?
Yeah. And we thought it would be great. And so, it helped us really say, okay, we're not going to invest, X number of dollars into this space. It's not going to work out. So it really is cool that the food truck can help not only market your brand and drive traffic back to a brick and mortar, but also mitigate that risk when you're doing site selection.
Yeah,
and that's faster path to profitability. Right. I mean, 12 weeks after you sign your franchise agreement, boom, you've got cash flow coming in to continue. help.
That's the big thing that stands out to me, right? Because typically, I mean, anything brick and mortar, best case scenario, you're 6 to 9 months, to open
Oh
from
yeah.
the time you sign franchise agreements, and then obviously the more complex the build out is, you're probably pushing 12 months, if not longer. So you've got this huge gap of time where money's flowing out,
Yep.
right? And that should be a surprise to anyone if they're doing their due diligence the right way. That shouldn't be like shocking to them. Like they should understand the expected timelines and things like that. But it's never fun,
Right.
when you're 6 months into, you signed a franchise agreement and paid the fees 6 months ago, and you've just been investing, and you still have another, 4 to 6 months before your doors are even going to open and you have a chance to start, generating your first dollars in revenue. So when you're able to launch with that food truck much sooner, um, I think if nothing else, just from a mindset standpoint, that's got to
Exactly.
be a game changer. Like I've conversations all the time with people I've helped get into franchises, that are brick and mortar, and they're somewhere in that, period before opening. And I'm, always having to, kind of give them a little pep talk and say, hey, look, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you've got your grand opening on the calendar, you're working towards it. But it can be that can be an emotional roller coaster as you're going through that.
Oh, for sure. I'll never forget opening our first brick and mortar, and that account was getting kind of low there, and I'm going, okay, but you forget, okay, money's about to start flowing in, right? And
Yeah.
so having that in that interim period with the food truck, and also you're building up your customer base at the same time.
Yes.
So your grand opening is going to be wildly more successful because you've got a dedicated group of customers that are excited about the brand. They've had the product a few times. Yeah, I'm going to that grand opening. Absolutely. And they're telling their friends about it in the community. Hey, this grand opening's happening. And so again, it's just driving that traffic back to that brick and mortar. And it just leads to such a successful launch period. It's really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I hadn't really thought about, being able to use the food truck to try, different areas before you sign a lease. And that makes a lot of sense. Like that example you gave where, you guys thought it was going to be the perfect location and ended up being a dud. No telling how much money that saved you guys, right?
Oh
By
yeah.
being able to figure that out before you went and signed a long-term commercial lease. So that is huge as well. The other thing I like about it is you're able to start building up your employee base, getting them some reps, getting them some experience, which kind of leads me into the next thing I wanted to ask about. Like, what does the team need to look like? What do you need? What type of team do you need in place in order to be able to launch with the food truck? And then, once you do have your brick and mortar open, what size team are you looking at to be able to run that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd say initially, with just a food truck, really depends on the amount of volume you're doing. I'm assuming the franchisee is probably going to work in most of those food truck shifts. So you probably need a roster of at the most like 5 people. It really depends on maybe 7 on the high end, depending if someone can work like one day a week or whatever. So that's probably about the right size on that. And then when your brick and mortar opens, of course, it depends on the square footage. Our
Mhm.
average square footage about 1,500 square feet, so it's not super large. I would say your midweek shifts, like you probably need a total roster of like 15 to 20. Your midweek shifts, lunch, you're going to run probably 3 people. Dinner, you're going to run 5, maybe 6 if it's a high volume night. Friday, Saturday, you can run up to like 10 people. So it really depends. And it's a combination really of it's probably about 50 to 60% part-time people, 40 to 50% full-time. We've seen a lot of success, believe it or not, with high school and college students. Like a lot, it's kind of funny because you hear out in the media, whatever, these days that, oh, Gen Z has all these problems and they don't work and whatever. That's been the exact opposite of the experience we've had in every single market that we're in, corporate and franchise. um, we get some really great motivated people that come through, and I mean, we're franchising to one now, right, who's started with us
Yeah,
as our high
yeah,
school. And so that's another unique aspect of the Cascadia brand is in both our corporate and our franchise stores with very low turnover. I'm going to say some of the lowest in the industry. Part of the reason why is that in all of our markets so far, our corporate and our franchisee, we do a tip pooling model, meaning that
okay,
all of the tips are pooled in one pool. Everyone shares in that based on how many hours they worked in the pay period. So it's really equitable for all people. It really, and it like in our corporate stores, I can say it adds about $10 to $12 an hour in pay. So we have high
Per
school.
person.
Yeah. So we have high school kids coming in making close to $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And we're in Washington State. So we have very high minimum wage here, some of actually the highest in the country in one of our
Right.
markets. And so that's another unique thing. If we're selling a franchise to someone in Texas or, a lower income area that doesn't have those higher minimum wages, I think you'll actually be able to outperform our corporate performance because of that. Your labor cost is going to be a lot lower. But in terms of the employee retention, it's huge. I mean, we have the best success, and we've really, in a lot of ways, made our system duplicatable for first-time employees, right? People, this is their first job, et cetera, where it's not a complicated process. It's something that all people can learn. And so if you have people who are just motivated, want to come in and have a good time and make pizza, it's a fun job. They can be rewarded really well in terms of compensation. And I mean, now we have an employee who has been, really smart with his money, but he's been able to save enough money to be able to go out and buy his own franchise. So it's really, really cool. But I know a lot of people, when they think about food, they think, I don't want to deal with high school, college employees.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 they're unreliable, et cetera, et cetera. That has not been our experience at all. And that's not to say that, there have been a few that happens, but our
Well,
core
sure. That's any business though.
well, exactly. And so for us, it's like, we don't shy away from hiring younger people at all. In fact, we really prefer it in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, I could see it being like a fun, fun part-time job, if you're in high school or college, like
Yeah.
better than a lot of the other part-time job options out there, especially if they're able to make more money as well.
Yeah, but people are fighting for the job. I mean, our high school employees, they'll be walking through the halls at school. People will come up to them that they don't even know. Like, how can I get hired at Cascadia? I really hear, you guys are making a lot of money and it sounds so much fun. And I mean, so they like become the most popular kids in school just because they work for us.
Nice. They got that good wood-fired pizza hookup.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode. So I'm glad we touched on that, the staffing piece, because I think it's one of the things that just turns a lot of people away to the food business in general, right? Yeah. Is, larger staffs are needed typically compared to, a lot of the other types of kind of non-food franchises out there. And yeah, I think people do just kind of assume it's going to be low paid, part-time, high turnover, type of employees. And I think regardless of what the business is, there's always things that, you as the business owner can do to create a better culture within your organization for your team to, attract good people and keep them around. And it sounds like you guys have a good blueprint for your franchisees to do that, in their own markets with Cascadia. So, so what would you say to someone? Because you and I were talking about this off air. I get a lot of people that I talk to that are like, Wes, I don't know what kind of franchise I want. I just know I don't want to be in the food business.
Yeah.
I think we've highlighted some pretty solid things so far in this conversation that kind of differentiate the Cascadia business model from your traditional fast food or quick casual type of franchise. But, anything else that comes to mind that you would say to someone that's just, kind of under the assumption they don't want to be in the food business, why Cascadia might be worth keeping an open mind and taking a closer look at?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think outside of the reasons we highlighted, I mean, there's a great opportunity for profitability, some of the highest margins available in the QSR space. So that's number one. Pizza it's not your fine dining. It's not that low margin restaurant that a lot of people just assume that it is. And that's not to say that, I mean, yeah, maybe you can make a little bit more money in a like mold restoration business or whatever, but that's not fun. I mean, who wants that? It's like, if you want to wake up every day and be passionate about what you're doing, making an impact in your community, creating opportunity for young people in your community to learn valuable life and work skills, I mean, that's a huge thing that fulfills the three of us and what we do
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So if that's really what you're looking for, more than just like, you want to leave your corporate job and just go make money and doing something that's like I said, a service business or whatever, like that's great. But are you really going to have fun doing that? I
Yeah.
don't think so. I know I wouldn't. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not to, poo poo those opportunities, because I'm sure that there's some great ones out there. But for us and what we're looking for, if people that they, really want to create something that's going to have a lasting impact in their community and for their family as well. I mean, if you've got kids that they might be young
Oh
now,
yeah.
yeah, you're building something. This is a business your kids can get involved in from a fairly young age.
My
Um,
kids would eat all of our inventory though.
yeah,
We'd
yeah,
go broke
totally.
every
Yeah,
time we
no, for
bring our
sure.
kids around. They'd be
But
like,
it's so much fun, what we get to do every single day,
yeah,
and just be a part of all these different community events with the food trucks. Have a great location where people can come relax, have a great pizza with their family, drink a beer, a glass of wine, and just kind of unwind on a Friday, Saturday night. That's really what we're all about. So I think there's so much opportunity for people to really join a young system that's growing, that can expand into a lot of different territory, and be passionate about what you do, and really be able to be proud of the ownership that you have in a local business.
yeah, man. I like that point a lot. It's fun business, right? And it's a business where you can really get involved in the community. And it may sound, a little cheesy to say that, you can have a positive impact with something like pizza. But
Yeah,
I mean, to your point, right? Like, look at all these young kids you're giving good job opportunities to where they can actually make money. I mean, you've got a guy that started off in high school with you that has saved enough money to buy a franchise that costs multiple six figures, to launch and open. Like that's freaking awesome.
yeah,
That is super cool. And I will say, man, because like my wife and I own and have owned service-based franchises. We
sure.
wasn't quite mold remediation, but we owned an insulation franchise for like 3.5 years, and that was the second franchise that we got into, right? And our draw to it was more financial, right?
Of course, yeah,
Certainly weren't passionate about insulation. But the other franchise we owned before that is, and the one that we still own, we do like custom pull out shelving and custom closets, and it's fun and it's creative, and like our clients are excited, about the product because it's an upgrade, it's an improvement. And so like something we didn't put enough thought into, when we were getting into that second franchise was, the fun aspect of it, right? We weren't even really considering that. We were like, this is a, you know, service that is always going to be in demand. It'll open up some other avenues for our existing business. I mean, there was a whole,
yeah.
series of logic of why we were attracted to that business. But the one of the things we overlooked was like, it just wasn't a fun business to operate. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah.
Like no
But
one
this,
was excited to see us. No one gives, you need insulation, but you're not
right.
like, yes, the insulation guy's coming today. So it just wasn't, yeah, there was a lot of stress and headaches, but no one was ever really like appreciative of it. And so anyways,
No,
that
it's
makes it
it's the
different.
same logic that applies to opening a funeral home business. Like, yeah, everyone's gonna die. Like, cool, yeah. You've got you've
Yeah,
got
that
a
might be the
customer
ultimate example
base.
of that. Yeah.
But I mean,
You
it's
have
the
to like
same logic.
literally hang out with dead bodies all day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity to have fun in the pizza business. It's not a complicated business to understand. You don't
Yeah.
have all these. We don't have crazy KPIs that you have to try and hit. It's really managing your cost of goods, your labor cost, and your overhead. So it's a really simple on your P&L to really be able to understand and be able to target. If you're not hitting the metrics you want to hit, it's really easy to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. The big thing I like about this is the food truck component, because that does just, to me, it creates so much more opportunity for that community involvement that you keep talking about. Like I think about my wife and I and like what we like to do. Like we would love, just being able to like go to events and, talk to people about our pizza food truck and, make arrangements to have the truck out at different events. And, my wife especially, she's a freaking social butterfly. Like she would be dominating with the pizza food truck, I think. So to me, that really makes this stand out as kind of a unique opportunity. Um, One other thing I want to ask you about, because this is another challenge that a lot of food businesses have, and I think something that turns a lot of people off from them, is the inventory component of it. So, I mean, obviously, you guys don't have like this huge menu, right? Like you're doing pizzas and so the different toppings and stuff. But what does the process look like for franchisees to order their inventory?
Yeah.
Um, how do they manage that? Are they running the risk of over ordering or under ordering and having to, throw away a bunch of product, or what does that look like?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that question. I think that's the first time I've been asked that question on a podcast. Our inventory is so simple. You're going to order like between 90 and 95% of your menu items or ingredients that you need from one vendor. So
Okay.
it's super simple. We don't have any specialty items at all. All of our product, by the way, is all made in the United States. From our flour that's in your dough, all of your meat toppings, etc. Everything is in the United States. So, for
Okay.
those of you who are worried about tariffs, whatever, not a problem at all. But yeah, the inventory process is really simple. We have essentially no food waste. I mean, there's a little bit when it comes to some produce, which is really, really, really low cost. I mean, we're talking like a few dollars, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and everything that you have has a long shelf life. So you really don't even have to worry about taking inventory. I mean, unless you're seeing some crazy swings where you think someone might be stealing a bag of cheese. But other than that, you've got long shelf life on everything, where you're not throwing out essentially any product. You might have a little bit of dough waste. Again, that's really low cost. But the dough lasts after you make it. You can make it last as long as 5-6 days. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's got a long shelf life on that as well. So yeah, again, it's really simple to manage. You've got one vendor for almost all of your products, and yeah, I mean, it's really great.
Yeah. No, that sounds pretty simple. I mean, especially compared to a lot of restaurants. I think that's where probably a lot of people, the difference between, because I mean my take is most food businesses, if you're running it really well, you're hoping for like 10, 11, maybe 12% net profit margins. But the wastage can, cut that in half sometimes, if you're not running it efficiently, or if your labor cost is a little bit out of whack. I'm not saying that's where y'all's margins are at, but
No, they're quite a bit higher. I mean, yeah, we're our item 19. I mean, we're running 16 to 20% net margin after royalties for franchisees.
yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that blows almost every other food concept I've ever, looked at with any level of detail. That blows it out of the water. It's totally different. But I think that wastage is a big reason so many food businesses do struggle to have, better margins than they do. So, and I imagine having just the one vendor to primarily deal with is just simplifies things greatly for the franchisees.
Exactly.
So, what are some of the other like challenges that people should be on the lookout for if they're considering getting into a business like this? You already kind of established that if you're not a people person, probably not the best fit. There's a team component to this, right? I'm a big believer that the biggest challenge in any business is finding and keeping good people. So I imagine that is one of the challenges here. But you did a good job of kind of illustrating, how you guys have been able to do it without having crazy turnover numbers, and sounds like you're cultivating some really good talent, starting at a young age. What are other things that people should be considering, if they're, looking at something like Cascadia, trying to figure out if it could be the type of business that makes sense for them?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, one, wanting to go in a market that you think would be successful. Not every market will be successful, right? And so really targeting, the right areas that you think would be successful. I think that's really number one. So much of the restaurant industry really is site selection. So making sure that, and we do a really good job on our end of supporting our franchisees during that process, making sure that we are, selecting the right location. So it's not going to be a process where you go out and do it on your own and then just submit a site to us and say, hey, what do you think? We're gonna be part of that every step of the way with you. We've got a great team on the real estate side, and Al, my business partner and our CEO, is really hands on in that department as well. He's got a strong real estate background. So that's, I mean, that can be a challenge for a lot of people, right? Is finding the right site. I think there's also, there can be surprisingly a little bit of regulation around restaurant industry, just in terms of like employment law and some other areas. And thankfully, like we talked about at the beginning, I'm a lawyer, so I'm here to help you every step of the way, help with all compliance needs. And that's just the benefit of joining a system, right? That you're in this for yourself, but not by yourself. We've done everything that we can to make sure we've got a successful system that's duplicatable, that's going to take all of those traditional business stressors, especially in the restaurant industry, take those stressors out of your life so you can be focused on hiring, training, putting your system in place to get the business running the way that you want it to, with as little or as much involvement as you want. We're really looking for people who can be active in the business. That doesn't mean a full 40 hours in there. I think people who have a flexible schedule, that have other either business interests, or maybe they're in real estate or some other type of job that's a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
The only candidate that this isn't going to work for is someone who's in a 9-to-5 job. They're chained to their desk. They've got to ask permission to, go to the bathroom, let alone, go to their restaurant. So
yeah. Well, there's not a franchise that's going to work for that person.
Right.
Out there. So, and I see this being a really good fit for, and I think you even pointed this out already, but like a husband and wife team where, even if both of them have a job with some flexibility, or they have another business or something, if they can both kind of, divide and conquer and participate. I see this being a good fit for people that have kids, right? Because just think about all the things that you're always out and about doing with your kids anyways. Pizza's involved in like half of those things.
Exactly.
This is a natural fit, So I see this being a really, really good option for husband-wife teams, and especially people with kids, of varying ages. But those types of people already tend to be pretty plugged into their community.
Exactly.
And it does sound like that's a big factor here. So last thing I wanted to ask you about, and then I'll let you go, man. But booze. I know it varies from like state to state, maybe even county by county. But are most franchisees getting a liquor license for their brick and mortar? And is it just beer and wine, or is it liquor? Is that up to them? Does it depend?
Just beer and wine. Yeah. So we have beer and wine in all of our franchise locations. We have one corporate location that doesn't, because it's just not allowed to because of the regulation there. And it's a small footprint. But so beer and wine, beer, of course, goes so well with pizza already. I mean, they're kind of just hand in hand. There's not a ton of opportunity on the liquor side. There is, but we really want to keep it a family-friendly environment. It keeps it a lot simpler in terms of operations. You don't have to have an experienced bartender to pour beer or a glass of wine, versus someone comes in and asks for an old fashioned or whatever. You got to have a trained bartender there. It just makes it more complicated. And in our entire history of Cascadia, we've never had to kick someone out for being intoxicated.
You add liquor, and that may change.
Exactly. And so keeping it at beer and wine, it's really easy to manage that component as well, mitigate your liability. But beer and wine offers a really great margin, of course. And people stick around longer, hang out. It just creates a more relaxed atmosphere. So typically a beer and wine license is a lot easier to obtain than a full liquor license. So like in some states, it's like Idaho, for example, our franchisee there, in Idaho, they have the full liquor license capped. So you have to buy it from somebody else. And it's like,
that can get pricey, huh?
Right. Yeah. And there's other states there's a handful for sure that I know of that are like that. Beer and wine, easy. I think it was a couple $100 to get the license there. Not a problem. And that's the case in most states. And again, I'll be there to help any franchisees along the way in that process to make sure they can get everything buttoned up there. But yeah, beer and wine for sure is a great component of the model.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, keeping it to beer and wine. Are they able to sell like beer and wine out of the food truck, like canned beers, or
So it really depends. Like in our market in Washington for a public event, no. But we have a catering license where we can supply alcohol for special events like weddings, that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and beer and wine in most states too. You also could sell seltzers like a White Claw or something like that too. So just in case people were wondering about that, if that's a big draw in your market, yeah, absolutely, you can do that. But yeah, typically there might be some states where that's possible for a public event on food truck. I haven't run into that yet, but if it's doable, yeah, by all means, go for it. We'll support that 100%.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we covered a lot of ground here today. I'm definitely hungry and craving some good wood-fired pizza now. But anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up? Anything I didn't ask you about that I should have? Just anything you want to leave the audience with here?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, this was really thorough. Thanks, Wes. I mean, this has been a lot of fun. We're just really excited about what we get to wake up and do every day and support our corporate employees and our franchise partners. And we're just excited to continue to add to that and really just help people pursue the American dream and entrepreneurship. That's what we're all about. It's what we're very passionate about that we get to do in this new phase of Cascadia's growth. So for folks out there that are looking to make a change, looking to do something a little bit different, maybe unconventional, that's what we specialize in. So we'd really love to talk to you and bring you into the system.
Hell yeah. I love that mission. Can't think of a better way to close it out. And I can't think of a more fun and delicious way to do it than through delicious wood-fired pizza. So we will put you guys' social media and website links in the show notes, make it easy for people to find. I know you guys have some cool pictures and videos up of your food trucks and the pizza ovens and stuff like that. So encourage people to go check it out. And if you're a listener of the Franchise Unfiltered podcast, want to learn more about Cascadia or any of the other top hundreds of franchise opportunities across the country, reach out to me. Always happy to talk to anyone that's got questions or wants to learn more about franchise ownership. But Thomas, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you dropping in here with us on the Franchise Unfiltered podcast.
Anytime, my friend. Thanks, Wes.
Thank you.